Tonia here, your host of the Alchemy of Me, where we navigate the anatomy of humanity through the lens of science and spirituality. Let's unearth the layers and unravel the systems in place that dim who we are and how we live and experience life. On this journey together, we'll weave in an eclectic blend of mind, body, energy, medicine, concepts, tools, and practices that'll nourish the seeds, the fire, that gold of intelligence that is you. This is an opportunity, your opportunity to reclaim, to rediscover, to transform, to alchemize you. The Alchemy of Me show starts now.
Hello. My name is Tonia Johnson, and I am your host of the Alchemy of Me, where we navigate the anatomy of humanity through the lens of science and spirituality. And I am so honored to be here today with dear Nicole Rank. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay! I am so before I'll give the audience a little bit of your bio, but our journey together. I'm excited to bring this topic forth into the world. What we're going to allow to come forward today, empowered parenting, nourished or nurtured youth. And I think this topic is a really, really important one right now as we navigate this where we're at in the world. And so I'm excited to see what comes forward. And I will also say I've had a lot of discomfort around my own, parenting and just parenting myself and being a parent. And so I like to just share that, a lot of times with some of the things we cover on the Alchemy of Me, there's a lot of an opportunity, to alchemize or transform how we maybe see certain things. And I think with everything swirling around, this is an invitation to look at how we parent in general and how we see children or youth or, the future. And so thank you, Nicole. So, your background, so a little bit about you: accredited creative mindfulness for kids practitioner, holistic teacher, and a published author of a poetry collection, Limitless, Sharing the World Through Love's Eyes. Prior to creating your business, Love Eyes Spiritual Development, you were a public school teacher for 13 years in Germany. And Nicole believes deeply in the healing power of mindfulness, love, poetry, and creation. I love that. And she also loves to support children on their way to adulthood and adults to live authentically and to embrace their humanness. That all just feels so loving and nurturing, just in, wouldn't that be nice just to have, that unconditional love and what comes forward. I think that's kind of that's how that feels for me. So I don't know if there's anything that I completely chopped out of your bio that you want to share.
No. I hug trees. Maybe that's important.
We share that. I do all the time.
Very good.
Sometimes when I get a little grumpy, my now 12-year-old will say, "Mom, maybe you need to go out and hug a tree." So yeah, that's been going on for a long time.
Very good. I think it's very nourishing.
It is. And I feel like that's probably going to align with what's going to come forward today. I have a feeling it is coming back to nature, coming back to ourselves, coming back to each other in that loving and kind of that loving way. So I do invitation before we dive in for you. You are a beautiful practitioner of breath and kind of bringing that forward. And you do that with, Wild Minnow, the organization I co-founded with Jessica Lang. And you have this beautiful presence to how you bring the breath in and through your poetry, through these beautiful words. And I would love it if as we get started, kind of laying this foundation of just getting curious and gentle. And gentle, what I mean by that is like, I think, at least for myself, I know there can be a lot of judgment that comes up and a lot of like these heavier feelings around how we parent ourselves and others. And so it's like, what if we could just come from this place or start from this place of openness and receptivity? So
Well,
would
I'd be
you
happy to.
be,
Yes.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
lovely,
Good.
lovely.
Okay, so if you want, wherever you are right now, put a hand on your heart, and if you listen to that in the car, that's okay. Just keep your eyes open, please, focused on the road. And other than that, you can fully relax and just listen to the words that I'm saying. Breathe in, breathe out. Let all the loud voices in your head become still. Maybe close your eyes or focus on the cute spring flowers on your windowsill. Now feel into your body. How is your back? How busy is your mind? Just do a quick body check. Where is it tense? Where can you soften the muscles? Where can you let go a little bit more? If you feel uncomfortable feelings, can you let them be? Knowing they are like the sea, coming and going, visiting the shore. Can you relax even a little bit more? And now give yourself a nice, huge embrace. Shower yourself in loving kindness and grace, for you are amazing in all that you do. You can be proud for just being you. You are doing your best, and that is always enough. Know that you're just right and that you are love. And then come back to this precious moment.
Oh, thank you. That felt really good. And it's funny as I kind of started to allude to every time, I like to say like tuning in as my way of prepping for a show. I start to see things that come up, and it's a lot of like that inner dialogue, right? That feels completely different from what you just shared, right?
Yeah,
Usually not
yeah.
super healthy. And,
Yeah.
Like, who am I? Like, why would I be able to have this conversation with Nicole about parenting? What kind of parent am I? Like all of these like interesting limiting conversations, inner dialogue. And so I would love it if we kind of just start there, just around this, like, what if we could just look at that with that childlike innocence, right? Like that without judgment. What if we could do that? What would that feel like? And maybe, I don't know, we just can kind of sprinkle in whatever feels like is coming up for you, kind of with how you see it coming forward with maybe, grown adults you work with, let's say grown adults, and then also, kids of all ages. So I'll just pause there and see if there's anything that's coming forward.
Oh, there were a few things that I can just dive into. I like the word, like I'm a poet, so I like word plays. So the word tune in, when you said tuning in, I thought about it, and I thought about how we tune in into a radio show, how we tune in. So we tune ourselves into the right state of being. And that's all we do with reconnecting with our breath, is we tuning ourselves into the source of who we are, into the unconditional love that we are. So that's why I think breath work is so important, because we're like really tuning in into that inner well, and then connecting to that. And this self-talk, I can totally relate to that. I think everybody has that. It's human,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And then I think what helps is really to tune out in that moment, to zoom out. Like it's funny, when I'm on my my walks outside in nature, I love to as well zoom in as zoom out. So sometimes I really look into this detailed world of a plant, like how does it look like. It's very, like, from a close-up perspective, it's very, very precious. And then sometimes it helps to just rest the gaze on a wide meadow or something, so really zoom out as well. So it helps, both of it helps, and I think it kind of needs to be in balance. So as much as we tune in to the things that we want to work on in ourselves, the things that we want to get better at, or that we want to improve, I think as much it's needed to zoom out and relax, and know that we're doing our best, and that's always enough.
Oh
And
my goodness. Yes.
especially, I think, as parents, we can be quite hard on ourselves. And and I think the antidote to that is authenticity and vulnerability, and pure authenticity, vulnerability. And that's brave, that's courageous. But I think that's actually what the world lacks somehow, in our leaders, especially. If everybody would be more vulnerable and honest, then we wouldn't, our nervous systems would be easier on us. Like we wouldn't be as alerted. So I think what I've always practiced at school with my students was that if I felt like I made a mistake, or I did something that on the next day I thought, oh my God, I said that, I shouldn't have said that. Instead of going on in my mind about that, I just told them. I said, you know what, yesterday, and that's actually then modeling the self-awareness and the reflection part. So I think it's really beneficial.
Yes, it's so beautiful too, because there's that rawness of like, we are not perfect. And it takes a lot of energy to pretend like we've got it all figured out. So what if we just like say like, hey, it's all good. Like we're not.
And I really remember my own childhood. I remember that my parents were really eager to, like, they were very loving. I had a very good childhood. I didn't lack anything. And still, and still, I was kind of brought to that reality of, oh, my parents have their own problems as well. And I had that very late. And I'm not, and I know we try to protect children for such a long time. And then, like, I grew up in that bubble. I thought like everything is great and the world is a beautiful place, which is good, and which I still think it is, by the way. But,
yes, me too.
But then somehow I felt like something's wrong here. Now, looking back, I know that what felt wrong was actually that my parents didn't show me authentically how they were feeling. So they were feeling one thing, telling me another thing. And that, like, intervened with my own perception, with my own sensitive, empathic ability to really say, like, but something is not right. How can they say it's right? I feel that. And then I thought, oh, I must be wrong. Something's wrong with me. And then I carried that on for a very long time.
Yes.
So
yeah, and that can happen. I mean, and that's that whole thing. It's like they did, you know, coming from a loving place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't blame them. Like, no, and I'm not. I appreciate their love. It only showed how much they cared and loved me, that they wanted me to be protected. But knowing what I know now, I think it's not always helpful.
Yeah, and there's probably, there's the flip side of that where it's like including I mean, there's this is how we see the world as, like you said, it's like the world is a beautiful place. I believe that so deeply, and I felt that. Is it hard? Yes. Yes. And that feels true to me in this moment. There can be challenges, and it's still it's the lens in which I'm choosing to see the beauty.
Exactly.
And that's where I want to come back to what you were saying about the micro and the macro, zooming in and zooming out, because we zoom so far into life sometimes. We think of like all of the different things that are so important, getting everything done, all the to-dos, and then what really matters is very simple. And it's how we show up for each other, how we love. And that's the big, how we love each other. Where we're so in this like how, and I don't know if this is the right word, but like the conditioning from the patriarchal type of being, whether it's as individual, as parents, as employees, as humans.
Yeah.
And so we think it's really, it's like the little things become the big things. And it's kind of almost like a distortion of an illusion of how it can be.
Yeah, and I think this belief that the world is a beautiful place, this doesn't take much to shift the lens. That's why I called my company Love Eyes, because if we perceive everything through the eyes of love, then everything becomes softer and nicer, like even the hard stuff.
Yes.
So if I'm grieving, it just shows how much my heart is open for love. It just shows that I care. And if I look at it with this lens, then the grief gets a beauty. And then that's where poetry comes in, because poetry makes what is poetry? We are the poem, right? We are the poem, and we're writing it every day. And if we are looking at our lives through this lens of like, it's beautiful what we do, no matter what we do. It's beautiful. And then life becomes more beautiful. And it's not easy, because our minds are wired to think negatively. That's actual science, right? I think it's 80% negative thoughts, and then 95 of them repetitive. So we are just stuck in the same thoughts over and over again, in the same negative pattern. So it takes a bit of a rewiring and repracticing to look on the other side and to see the good. And then also who's benefiting if we don't see the good, right? Consumerism needs us to not be good.
Who's the victim?
Right?
Who gets the, like, it's interesting. I didn't realize it was 80%, or, I mean, statistic, it's, plus or minus whatever, but it's around the same number. Like 80% of people are suffering from burnout, which is exhaustion, stress, and overwhelm. And so it's like, it is this like, those are some pretty high numbers. So if we're operating from that state of negative thoughts, and we're overwhelmed, and we're freaking tired all the time, like, how do we show up as parents? How do we show up from that place of love? And I again, I want to just highlight what you said, because I think it's really, really important, because I get a lot of like, I don't know if this happens to you, but when you talk a lot about like, let's just all, like, we need more love, 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 love. Like, world isn't all butterflies and rainbows, you know?
No,
And
for sure
so,
not.
and so, like what you said, it, like, if we see it through this lens of love, like, there's still grief. That's
Mhm.
still there. But
Yeah,
how we see it and how we move through it and how we embrace ourselves, because it's both sides.
yeah. And then it becomes grace, right? So then we move through
Yeah.
things with grace when we come from a
Yeah.
place of love. And I think the biggest distortion is that feeling of I need to make someone else happy, whether that's oftentimes it's the
Mm.
child thinking that about the parent and the other way around as well. So I think that's the biggest distortion. Nobody is here to make someone else happy. And I I know that feeling. I want people to be happy. Don't get me wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
wish everybody would be happy, right? But no one is there. No one is responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were responsible for keeping me alive, right? For
Mm-hmm.
feeding me, for nourishing me, and the happiness is is not something that we get from the outside. It is something that we are. If you look at children, they are naturally happy. They
Mm-hmm.
are naturally happy. We don't even need to do anything in order for them to. They are happier than we are. Just where the distortion comes in is when we think we are responsible for that, or on the other way, they are responsible for our emotions. So then expectations come in, and then the unconditional part of the love part like disappears. So then
Mm-hmm.
it is says, I'm just saying that because I love you. No, you say that because you're in fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's fear behind it. It's not actual unconditional, not what love really is. And we have this distorted, like a lot of our words nowadays are cloaked in several meanings. And even how we brought up, one word might mean to me something different than it means to you. That's why I love poetry, because everyone reads poetry through their very own lens and with their very own interpretation of it, and it leaves the room for interpretation. And then I think we have this flame in us, and you talked about victims. So I think we have this flame of the creator in us. We are creative by nature. And
Mm-hmm.
the word burnout, I think, is very interesting when we talk about a flame.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you have this inner flame of creativity in you, and then you burn out, which just means you're totally feeling powerless. You're feeling not lit up in who you are, um,
Mm-hmm.
and in your own creative nature, and um, and then that's where others come in. And I think we can ignite the flame in others so it never runs out. And because like if we share the love, that never gets less. It's like a candle. If you light another candle, this candle doesn't run out just because it lit another candle. That's
Mm-hmm.
how love works.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about that comparison about the inner flame and
Mhm.
burnout. And I feel like burnout has been part of my, um, like, just again, keeping it real. It's something that I have gone in and out of um, most of my life. And
Mhm.
so part of an invitation for myself, and a lot, I would say 80% of people,
Mhm. Mhm.
is to look at that like, okay, so why do I reach for igniting others' flames when mine is feeling like I need to nourish within? And maybe, another, I know we've talked about this before, and I kind of love, and maybe this goes back to the trees, but it's the, nourishing our garden, or who we are as our individual flowers. And this can feel a little bit maybe out there for some, but I want to kind of bring this forward before we take a break, but it's looking at like a wildflower versus a like more of a conventional flower that's maybe growing in somewhere it's not supposed to grow, and what it takes, the energy it takes to get this flower to grow in an environment that is not natural for it.
Yeah,
I kind of want to just,
but
I don't know if you have any thoughts about that are kind of.
That is a very interesting thought. I think still this flower grows, and I'm always so amazed where flowers grow. It's like amazing. They're even through the asphalt, like through something that you think you cannot push through, they come through. And that's who we are by nature as well. We are this creativity, we are love, and we like even the poorest child, that the child that is like, I don't know, in foster care, or has like really like a history where you think like, oh my goodness, your heart is breaking just by looking at it. They get through because we are like this. We are resilient by nature. And then but so I don't know, sometimes I think, what would happen if we took this flower now and put it somewhere else where it didn't start to grow, right? Like force it out of that environment and then put it somewhere else where it didn't, like, then there could be a chance that it doesn't grow there, right? Like if we replant things. So I think oftentimes we especially as sensitive people, we want to help others. And I have come that from my own experience. I was so eager and focused on helping other people all the time. And I forgot myself. And that let me run out as well of like, I didn't even know who I was anymore. Like, and I was just trying to help. And I think that's kind of this overgiving part where that's, for me, it was connected to what I thought love was and what love actually is. Because what I thought love was caring for others, like my mother did for me, right? Or my parents did for me. So caring for others, helping others, solving problems with others. But that also meant that I was always looking at them from a place of lack. There's something, so
missing.
There's something missing. I have to help them in a way. And when I realized I already have that love inside of me, I don't need to help others in order to feel loved. But I already have it inside of me. Then I was able to give love without running out of it.
Beautiful. Well, let's, I want to keep exploring that. I think there's a lot there that we can dig into. Let's take a quick break. And before we do that, can you just share your website for folks if they're interested in getting in touch with you or learning more about you after the show?
Yes, the website is www.love-eyes.com.
Beautiful. We will be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I am Tonia, and I am joined by Nicole Rank, and we are having a beautiful, loving discussion around how we exist, how we are as parents, how we nourish ourselves, how we see each other. I mean, it's like a whole lot of, you can just keep going on and on, but really want to continue our conversation that we are having just around this idea of looking at ourselves, and whether it's ourselves as like nurturing our own, who we are, or maybe it's nurturing our parents too. I mean, thinking of that, like the relationship, really it's the relationships we have with ourselves and others, with everybody. And doing that through the lens, because I think sometimes what can happen is there can be a lot of judgment around how we show up just from that. Again, going back to what you said about the 80% of our thoughts come from this place of maybe not, maybe more of like a negative tone to them. So what if we look at it through the lens of more of a garden? And so we kind of see how that flows or how that feels. How does that feel?
Yeah, I think the analogy of the garden, the flowers are really powerful to help us understand how we can best nourish each other and help each other grow. And I think there's one part is the roots. Like they have the study of how the trees are connected underneath the earth and nourishing each other. And I think that's important that we know that it's not just us. It's not just us and maybe our families. It's even more. It's the whole world. It's the whole humanity. So we are really connected as one big family. And that's something that I think I can only speak for myself. I mean, my mom literally said to me at some point, she said literally at one point to me, I raised you to stand your own man. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that explains a lot of things. Because, and I think it's a generation, and there's nothing wrong with it as well, because I think it was all about empowering, us women to be women in this world. And I think still there's a kind of hyper individuality that we have picked up on. And I always thought, like, when I see today, when I was a child and I was in the train and I put my feet on the seat of the train, and the grandma said to me, that, like, someone that I don't know, a stranger said to me, "Take your feet down, girl. That's not how you do it," right? My mom would have said, "Oh, thank you. I didn't see that." But now it says, like, "Don't you talk to my child like that." But that's the part. I think the community part of raising children has somehow gone lost. And I feel like that would have, like what is that? If we have like a general, a certain understanding of how our garden shall look like, then we can all tend to it. And then we can all help with that.
Seeing it as an opportunity to really, like, to rebuild. And I just think of even like and there's some talk about like the quality of the soil in the garden. I mean, it's obviously very important. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I recognize like all the important parts that go into farming and gardening and all of that. So it's like you mentioned the roots and the connection there, and then there's the quality of the soil and the nutrients involved, and thinking of that as like, all of the ways that a plant takes in nutrients, whether it's through the soil or through the air, and then it also releases. So it's like, I think of like, if the quality of the soil and like the things that we put in our bodies, whether it's food or content through media, social media, the people around us. I mean, these are the kinds of things I like to think of because it comes from a less judge for myself. Like, I'm not judging as much. Like, why did I stop listening and watching news 5 years ago. It's because I saw the effect it was having on me, on how I was showing up as a human. I literally couldn't handle it. And so I chose to do something that felt nourishing to me in order to, I don't know, like, yeah, to allow myself to bloom in a different way.
Well, yeah, and that's what I think is important, that first of all, we tend to ourselves first.
Yes.
And we really know that I have to be in like nourished as well in order to nourish, right? I
Yes.
cannot nourish if I'm not nourished.
Yes.
Then I can't give anything. So the often people talk about self-love, and then it just goes on the outside. A lot of people think self-love is I'm taking a bubble bath and I'm having this night out with my friends, or that's
Yeah.
part of it. That's self-care.
Yeah.
But I think self-love is to tune in into who we really are inside, into the love that we are, and that is again connects to the breath, because the self-love part is the, if we take the flower analogy, that's the raising my head towards the sun. That's my receiving the energies and let it flow through me, the life force, the life energy that naturally flows through me, and then I just plug in. There we have the tune in again.
Yeah.
Tune in again and plug into that well of being, well-being, right? Into this well of being, and plug into that. And then the love naturally flows through. Like the way I see it is, you have this glass of water, and then the unconditional love is who we are. It's down here. It's like it's this well, never-ending well, and we sometimes just have the plug in, and then we try to fill it from the outside and think like, why do I still feel not enough or empty or whatever? But all we need to do is take out the plug, and then it can spill over, and then the love spills over into the experience of others, and naturally they get it from us, and we don't run empty. So but I need to find that inner center, because otherwise I just push it down.
Yeah, that's so true, because it's like almost like there's a hole in the bottom of the glass and you just keep filling it, or the hole is plugged and it just keeps overflowing, and that's like that overwhelm, and depending on which one feels more, but it doesn't feel good to be in that state at all.
No, right. But I think, and that's where the judgment part comes in, non-judgment. That's the biggest gift we can give to anyone, whether it's our children or our neighbors or someone who we talk to, is non-judgment. And that doesn't mean that I have to approve what they are saying, and it doesn't mean that I have to agree with what they're saying, but I can try to not judge them. And I think we can only do that if we are practiced to soothe our nervous system, because somebody has a different opinion like we have, and that feels unsafe to us because we are used to like that agreement means I'm being loved. Then our nervous system will act out. So in order to reverse that, we need to just soothe our nervous system. And again, that's where the breath comes in. That's where other tools, there are so many wonderful tools out there to soothe our nervous system and to get back to that creator, because we are more than just our thoughts. We are more than just that judgment in our thoughts.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's really important, because it's oh my gosh, there's like so many things that are coming forward right now around this, because like what you said about the, it's engaging that fight or flight freeze
Mhm.
response of the nervous system. And when we're in that place, we are in fear mode.
Yeah.
And we fear and love. So it's like opportunity to shift back into
Mhm.
that place of love through some of these modalities, through the breath, reminding yourself, like if we look at things with judgment, we're always judging.
Mhm.
That's where, and I see this even in myself, like when I'm going too hard and I see the world through a more judgmental lens. I
Mhm.
kind of, again, take that step back and I look and I'm like, interesting. What is it in myself right now that feels triggered? Getting super curious about it, right? And like, why did I just have no time for my son in this moment? Why, when he wanted to show me something and I was like, no, not right now. We can talk about that later, just as cold as can be. And then wondering like, interesting, what is it about my own? It's not him. It's clearly something in me that it's like that pausing, looking, and allowing myself without judgment some time and space to just say like, it's all good. Going back to what you said of like, in the schooling, like I this analogy I gave you, like when I did this with my son earlier, because I feel like I was constantly like, what am I doing? And it was like backing up the bus. Like I would just start making this beeping sound to him, like I'm backing up a garbage truck so I can let go of like whatever I
I love
tried
that.
to do. Like the first
Mhm.
version was not good.
Mhm.
So we're going to do
Mhm.
it again. And he
Yeah.
thought it was the funniest thing. But it also like in my own humility of like, I'm not going to nail it every time. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Exactly. And that gives him the permission as well to not nail it every time. That takes lots of pressure off. Lots of kids are so pressured to do it right and to be good and be right. And I think that goes for all of us. Like, and we're trained by this, by social media and everything, to compare.
Oh,
Comparison is the thief of joy. Theodore Roosevelt said that already. So it
oh
is
my gosh.
really, it steals our joy. And but it's a practice, and it's
Mhm.
and this tuning in into our non-judgment is almost like getting into an algorithm for that, right?
Yes.
As soon as like it's so interesting. Like I can see on my Instagram feed, I can see what I'm looking at mostly, right? Because it's giving me
Mhm.
more of that. And life is
Yes.
like that as well,
Yes.
right? So my thought was, what if we all can tune into that algorithm of love? I actually wrote a poem on that
Mm.
because I thought, it would be so cool to really just see that rolling over and coming up in our eyes, right? But
Yes. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And what you said, and this goes back to like what you said in the beginning, that the tuning in, like tuning in,
Hmm.
it's like that frequency. There is a frequency of love.
Love.
There's a
Exactly. Love is a
frequency of
frequency. Yes.
everything
Yeah.
else. And so it's like if
Yes.
you're always tuned into a fear-based frequency, that's
Yeah.
how life will present
That's what
itself
you
to
get.
you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But also it's important that to honor all the other feelings.
Yes.
I'm an expert in so-called spiritual bypassing because
Me
oftentimes I
too.
think like, I don't want to be human, just like let me run in those spheres. It feels so good, but I can't meditate the whole time. Like it's not
No.
possible.
Yes.
That's not
I
what I'm
came
here
here to
for.
experience being, yeah, a human,
Exactly.
human experience.
But often happens is like fear and love, like our feelings are just a pointer, like they're just a scale and tell us where are we more in fear or are we more in love, like where are we on the spectrum. And I think what often happens is that we come from a state of utter powerlessness, and then we work our way upwards, and then we come to anger. And when we come to anger, we start to judge, we fall down back again, because fall down to shame again, and then we are powerless again. So we spiral in that lower half all the time instead of really rising up. And we need the anger, and that's what I often see with kids as well. The anger expression, oftentimes, like I, for example, never learned how to healthily express my anger because it was my parents weren't comfortable with it because of them, not because of me. And I thought I'm the problem, right? So I thought like, oh, I'm just so angry. So all my life I tried to not be angry, which made me more angry, or which ended up in me suppressing it until it all burst out, and mostly in relationships. And you know, so in that part, it's very important that we feel that we learn how to healthily move anger through our body. It's about movement, and that's where creativity comes in again. It's like, because when we are creative, we move energy. When we write, we move energy. When we create art or dance or create anything new, even if it's programming a computer, it's creating.
Yes.
And so when we create, we move energy.
Oh, that feels so good too. And to just, I mean, it's funny that anger is the one that, because for me, anger, I feel like that's the one I've always had a hard time accessing. It was definitely my bypassed emotion. And so it could literally be everything around me is blowing up. And I'd be like, it's all good.
I know. And it's for me, like,
And what that does, as you know, it just, it's like you're putting
it's
a
pressure
pot
pot
on some.
Yeah.
Yes. Not good. And then it comes
like
out sideways.
Yes, it's like the boiling, like how I love to explain it to kids. It's like the boiling milk. So you boil the milk, and then the milk rises up and rises up and rises up, right? And then there's this skin on the milk, but at some point it will boil over. So that's how the anger works. It's just like it boils over, and then it's a real mess. So just let off the steam. Like no, we can do that through so many things, and especially with kids, there are so many playful ways to really let go of that, to have some dragon breathing or lion breathing, and just like let it out in that way. And we like so often we hold our breath when we're angry instead of really breathing through it.
Yes.
And it's getting uncomfortable, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable emotions. Like it's definitely not a comfortable emotion, because it's like, you know, it sits in the body. It's like, it's very powerful. It comes through us. We feel like we have no control about it. It's an uncomfortable emotion, but we get comfortable with it and not judge ourselves for it, then it's going away easier. We don't fight it then. What we don't fight, what we let through us, goes away easier. It's like when we go to back to that garden analogy again, like it's like the storm coming, right? So when the storm comes, the plant is just standing there, right? It doesn't fight it. It's just standing there, moving with the storm. And then when the storm's over, the plant is still there, mostly, right? So, but it's interesting that I think I read a study once that they tried to put trees into greenhouses, and they gave them everything like outside conditions, like really everything, but the trees started to fall over after a certain height because they didn't grow enough roots. And then at some point they realized that the wind was missing. And I think that is really interesting as well. So we need to realize that we need that to build resilience. We need uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's too, this is a totally random analogy, but I thought of it as a, I don't know if this is a thing where you're growing up, but like you get a goldfish in a
Yeah.
1 gallon tank and
Mhm.
they just stay that cute little size. But then if you put them in a 10-gallon tank, they get like way
Yeah.
bigger
Yes,
because they're not
true.
made to be kept small.
Yes.
But we
But
put
then,
them in, it's like
yes,
a box. We're keeping them small. We do
yes,
that to ourselves too. We do that to
yes,
our
yes.
kids. We do that to others.
Yeah. Yeah, by and often by worrying about it too, right? So we like what is worry?
Exactly.
When we worry, we give the other one the impression they can't cope on their own. They are not
Yes.
able to do something. We don't really believe in them. And then it's very interesting how we tend to worry about others. And then if I know it's hard to put your mind around it because it's from the outside, it may look like you have a disinterest. You're like, okay, no, that person will do. They're going to
Yeah.
be okay, right? It's not like you're not hearing the person in their sorrow or in their pain or whatever. But if you keep focusing on that pain or sorrow, it's not going away. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's so much, isn't it so much more loving if someone can just hold the space for us and say, you figure it out. I know that because you're strong, instead
Yes.
of how will you manage?
Yes.
Right?
Well,
So
it's like saying like, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so
yeah,
sorry for that was hard for you, or so sorry
yes,
for your
yeah,
loss. And it's such a disempowering. It's
yeah,
coming from a place where like you sometimes you don't
yeah,
really know what to say in that situation, but
yeah,
it's really putting somebody in that um into a disempowered place. And
yeah,
it's like more, it's like, what if we could, see it through a lens of, again,
mhm,
empowerment, through love,
yeah.
through courage. What was the other one? Bravery, um,
Vulnerability, yeah,
vulnerability.
and
Yeah.
courage comes from the word cur for heart, and for me,
Mm,
it's just living authentically. Like it's living the true authentic self, which is nothing that is like that. That's our soul imprint. That's
mhm.
deeper than just our human body. That's like
Yeah.
we need to look deeper. There's more to it.
Mm, I love it. I love it. Well, Nicole,
Mm.
we just blew through our basically whole hour, and we have like 30 seconds left.
Yeah, me too. Is it? Has it been an hour already? Oh my goodness.
Almost, yeah. So I would
Wow.
love if you could just, just share again, maybe your website and then how people can get in touch with you, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, so my website is www. Did I say that 3 times?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Dot love-eyes.com. I'm on Instagram with the handle Only Love Can Heal the World. And yeah, you can find me on Wild Minnow as well, on their website and their lovely offers that they have. And
Yeah, you teach 2 times a week. You teach our lovely child-centered um, practices. So if anybody ever wants an invitation to bring your kiddos in um, and just experience it, you could reach out to either one of us and we'll give you a free code to try it out.
mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Well,
just
thank you. Yeah.
yeah, I just want to say like we need to just be easier on ourselves and just let ourselves off the hook and say that
Mm,
we're doing everything we can, and that is good enough. And I think that is something that we really can say to ourselves every day. All is well, we're doing enough, we're having enough, we are enough, and we are love.
mm. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome.